Sometimes we hit a point where everything loses meaning. Our work, our goals, even who we are. Now, the usual advice is to push through, fix your routine, get productive again. But what if this isn't a productivity problem at all? What if the real issue is a deeper thing, a disconnection from meaning itself? When you're showing up, doing the work, maybe even producing more than ever, but it feels like it's going nowhere. And beneath it all, a sneaking feeling that you've lost the thread of why you started in the first place. So what needs fixing then isn't your output, it's your connection to meaning. Because when that's restored, the spark, the sense of purpose, and the direction you've been missing begin to return. So in this video, I want to walk with you through that space and share what I've learned about how to keep going when meaning disappears. We'll explore how to let go of fixed ideas about who you are, face the voices that hold us back, and reconnect with that creative fire inside, especially in those moments when you're pouring everything in and nothing seems to land. When the results aren't coming, it's often not a problem of output. It's a sign that something in you is out of sync, a signal not of failure, but of the need to reconnect. That's where the real work begins. Okay, so let's dive in. Have you ever heard someone say, God broke the mold when they made that one? I've always loved that idea, and yet we're quick to see it in others, but slow to remember it in ourselves. Especially when we're down or when life isn't going our way. But here's the truth, you are the broken mold. For a moment, take a look at yourself from a broader perspective. Think about what you're made of, how the 7 octillion atoms that form you will never be assembled in this way again. We walk around in the illusion of our human form, but rarely pause to remember the marvel of our own being. You are a cathedral of stardust, each particle older than the earth, each arranged once and once only in the miracle that is you. And not even the stars know how they did it. Somewhere along the way, though, we forget this. We settle into fixed versions of who we are and convince ourselves the road is already run. But part of life is learning to break your own mold, because the deeper spiritual challenge in life and in our creative selves is to ask, who are you when the map runs out? As someone who's hit that edge many times over the past 20 years in the arts, I've learned it isn't an end at all. It's a threshold, a rite of passage, just another marker along the strange, uneven trail that makes up a life. If there's one thing I've come to understand, it's this. There is no real story to your life without these moments. And now, for me, looking back, I see that my life wouldn't be my life if not for the self I was forced to meet each time I ran out of road. Look, we all hit dead ends. We all hit walls. We all feel shockingly negative about ourselves at points along the way. Sometimes it gets so heavy we start to believe there's nothing good left out there for us at all. But even then, something calls to us to recreate ourselves. The trouble is, shedding old skins isn't easy. They don't fall away on their own. They cling to us as if afraid to separate. And after a while, they start to feel like part of you. And to shake them off, you need to shrug like hell. But even that takes something, because before you can shrug, you have to believe it's worth trying to do so in the first place. And this is why reconnecting to meaning, to what really matters to you, isn't just a philosophical idea. It's a turning point of profound existential importance. And that's why I try to see those periods when I put time aside to reconnect as neither lost nor indulgent, but as something closer to a blood transfusion of the spirit. It's not about stopping to get stuck. It's about slowing down long enough to let your world catch up with you so you can reorientate yourself. So how do you manage this cosmic shrug when you're out of kilter, your energy's vanished, or your hard line into meaning has dissolved? Now, for me, I approach it in 3 ways. First, I accept that both the forming and breaking of molds are part of life's pattern. The walls we hit, the dead ends we reach, the sense that our work is going unnoticed, they aren't endings, they're waypoints. They may not get easier, but you can prepare for them. You can learn to recognize them for what they are, not what your anxiety tells you they are. Now, it's vital to remember this when you feel stuck. This, too, is part of the process. And because it's part of the process, it's also a kind of movement. Stuckness always precedes breakthrough. One follows the other. It's through the stuckness that you make time to reconnect to meaning. And when breakthrough does come, it doesn't arrive as a lightning bolt from above. It arrives from within, as the quiet explosion of meaning turned outwards. The second approach I have in these times of reorientation is I consciously try to face my inner voices. By that, I mean everything I find there. That includes the hard ones, the ones that whisper I'm not enough, that I'm too late, that I've missed my window, the ones that compare and condemn and complicate. For me, spiritual strength is the courage to meet yourself in your full totality. And by that, I mean to welcome everything you find in yourself. At first, without judgment, just with honesty and with acceptance. I think that reconnecting with meaning begins when you stop divorcing yourself from what's inside you. Meeting these voices is the precursor to moving forward. And I find that only by turning around do I realize those demons were never as frightening as I thought. Because that's the paradox of being in flight. You never quite know the face of the enemy that you're running from. Now, my third approach is to consciously reconnect to something beyond results. Can you carry some of that stardust I spoke about earlier with you, not just as an idea, but as a truth about who you are? Can you place yourself inside the vast tapestry of things and remember that you have worth, not conditional worth, not transactional worth, but inherent worth? Maybe even the greatest kind, the quiet, irreplaceable role you play in the larger pattern of life. Did you smile at a stranger yesterday? Or feel clear as day in your heart that there was something that you must do for someone else, even though it had nothing to do with your own life? We fool ourselves into thinking that meaning arrives with more status, more wealth, more recognition. But meaning isn't something you acquire. It's something you weave into the tissue of your being through your choices, your actions, your way of living. The way back to meaning begins with discovering who you are and how you choose to express that day by day in the immediate ecosystem of your life. That's where you recover it, not in metrics, not in milestones, not in followers or paychecks. Those things have their place, but they are not the thing itself. You are the thing itself, and you have value beyond the 1,000 ways society asks you to prove it. Maybe spiritual power begins at the moment you choose differently, when you decide that meaning isn't something you wait for, but something you practice, not once, but again and again. Because when you stop, really stop, you return to yourself and you remember yourself. And in that remembering, you realize meaning takes work. More than that, it is the work. So if things aren't going as you hope, remember, this is work you can do anytime, any day, regardless of what is or isn't happening on the outside. Meaning is the work. So in this context, let's come back to the idea that the distance you feel from meaning might be because you've cohabited too long with a mold that no longer fits. It's like a layer of dead skin, something that now separates you from the essence of things. I see it sometimes when I meet someone cynical. It feels like they're trapped in a version of themselves that they never quite managed to shed. Or maybe somewhere along the way, they just let that skin become them. It's why I try to stay on guard with cynical thoughts inside myself. Now, we all have them, but the real question is, can you catch them? Can you challenge the part of you that feels threatened by someone else's exuberance or by a life force that makes you feel smaller just by standing near it? Sometimes we surprise ourselves in our reaction to things or to others, and especially nowadays when it's so easy to fall into the pitfalls of comparison traps. So I'd counsel you to have the courage not just to catch these thoughts, but to forgive yourself for having them. It might sound paradoxical, but self-forgiveness doesn't just release the shame around these thoughts. It protects you from letting that shame sink deeper into your being. That's what cynicism is. Shame that has grown deep roots. So as you catch these thoughts, please don't hate yourself for having them. Rather, intercept them. Then try to bring your full creative potential into the darkest part of yourself. That right there is the work. That's where spiritual power is formed. Not by running from what you find inside, but by first noticing and working with what you find there. Believe me, there is no feeling more freeing than knowing you've allowed all the dark matter you find to wash through you. Trust in that river. That river is life, your life force doing its work in you. But here's the thing. If we don't do this work, if we don't take responsibility for what we carry inside, we end up projecting it outwards. And here's the modern trouble. We take zero accountability for what lives in us. Instead, we judge others, prop ourselves up on moral pedestals, cancel anyone we disagree with, and we cast shadows without ever looking at our own. Without noticing it, we become like a society of madmen, never once pausing to see our own place in the lunatic pantheon. So here's the paradox. We only begin to move again when we stop, when we finally catch what's actually going on inside us. In a society that only values acceleration, building and moving forward, we've lost sight of the intrinsic foundation that allows us to do so in the first place. The result is we bound restlessly on, never quite noticing that half the time we're all just chasing our tails, wondering why we forever land in the same place. So the point is that to start, you have to first stop. And we avoid it though because self-inquiry feels like an ungodly fire. But it's exactly that fire that burns off that old moldy skin. And underneath, it's vulnerable and it can hurt like hell. And that's why we build our defense mechanisms, because sometimes it just feels easier to block out the pain than expose ourselves to what we might find there. But damn, when you let it through, isn't it something? To feel your heart connect to the source of things again, not as a concept, not as a performance, but as something real. To know you're interacting with the world in its primary state before thought hardens, before instinct is second guessed. That's where creativity comes from the primal fire of feeling things again. From knitting new meanings out of the friction between your own life force and the greater life force moving through everything around you. It's not always gentle, it's not always clear, but it is alive and it is yours. And that right there, that courage to notice yourself and the world, that's the luminous re-emergence of meaning in your life. One thing I've tried to do personally, within the absurd and yet rewarding choice to live a creative life, is to move more consciously through the cycles. I don't mean racing through life, but I do mean recognizing that the ebbs and the lows aren't detours. They are the process itself. This ocean we sail includes its storms as part of its makeup. Now, for me, balance isn't about the absence of chaos anymore. It's about the capacity to keep moving through it. Within its ebb, its flow, its point, and its counterpoint. Lately, I've been thinking about all this because I find myself in a paradoxical state. On the one hand, I feel like I'm in a good process, working on a project I've long wanted to create, releasing the new songs I'm writing each month. But even in the midst of that progress, I've hit terrible troughs. And I've realized that despite the forward momentum, the excitement, the activity, there's still an inner clash taking place. And I think we avoid checking in with these internal realities because we know that doing so can lead to violent eruptions. But that's how the parts of ourselves we've long ignored eventually hunt us down. So I've taken this moment to stop, to stand firm, and to let some of these demons catch up. And it's felt good to turn and face them. And in the catch breath, to see how exhausted we've made one another. We're too quick to forget it. But growth in anything begins by turning and facing whatever it is we've been trying to escape from. Can you listen to the voice in the dark, the one that no one else hears? Why are you letting it torment you when all it's trying to do is help you grow? What if its sharp edge isn't a blade meant to pierce you, but a scalpel meant to shape you? Let me tell you this. You won't figure out these questions all at once, and you're not meant to. But what you can do today, this moment, is find the courage to listen to them. And then, only then, can you begin to answer them and step into the adventure waiting for you in the next phase of your life. Please try to break this terror that there's no point in trying in the first place. Maybe, just maybe, your whole life is represented in the decision you make in this moment. What will it be? It is not your path to give up, to say this is as far as I'm going, or I've already given the best I could give. No, there is another level, another gateway that you could only ever have the chance to unlock by getting to the end of this road right here. This is your beginning. This is the beginning of the journey that you're making, not the end. But you don't get to make the change without turning and facing first. In that, you have to have the courage to pivot from the belief that meaning is only going to be found looking forward. No, it's about this moment now. That's the opportunity, and that's where the work begins. So let me ground this in something personal. My own creative goal this year to make a new play in my musical life by releasing 12 new songs, one each month on Spotify. Not just as output, but as an act of commitment to the process itself. So far, I've felt proud of this journey because I'm on target, working hard, and most importantly for me, staying true to the vision I had when I decided I was going to fight for my musical life. However, part of following a vision is that you sometimes drift from it. Even while fulfilling something, it finds new ways to challenge you. So something I've been learning is that just doing it isn't enough. At every point, the path is provoking you, needling you with unexpected choices, questions, and knowledge that you have to learn, adapt, and react to. You walk out with a goal in mind, only to find the path before you has multiplied. You want to choose the right one, but at each crossroads, all you can do is make the best damn choice you can with the new information you've gleaned from the path behind you. So the truth is, there's no such thing as a perfect path. You just have to take a deep breath and choose one. And back yourself to make the best decisions you can at every juncture. In this, two things are certain. One is that you won't always know where you are. The other is that you'll need to course correct along the way. That doesn't mean giving up, but it does mean staying flexible. In my life, I found that accepting getting lost as an inevitability of the creative path hasn't just been a consolation. It's helped me move forward when both paths ahead seem equally full of pitfalls. In a world looking forever for guidance outside, it's helped me to learn to build my inner compass. And when you move into the dark, as you inevitably will, it helps to know that this is your chosen dark. In my experience, it is always at this point that my eyes adapt, and as if by magic, the path that was hidden for so long begins to reveal itself. This week, my project has hit its next crossroads, and it's time to look at both how far I've come and where I want to go to, as well as what it is I can do to help me get there. So this week, I'm clarifying my vision, and for me, this is like taking an inventory of everything I've learned so far: good, bad, beautiful, ugly. And if you'd like me to go deeper into how I self-audit, then please feel free to drop a comment or to shoot me a message. But for now, you don't have to figure it all out right away. Just start here. Write, feel, begin there. When it feels like meaning has disappeared, or like you've drifted from your why because things aren't working out as you'd hoped, this right here is your opportunity. Put everything you're feeling on the table. Ignore nothing. Write it down. Let it hurt. Let it instruct, because the pain, whatever shape it takes, brings you back to the source of yourself. That suffering, great or small, helps you feel again, to renew, to flush away what's stagnant. And in the aftermath of that flood, a greater sentience emerges, one that reconnects you to the living heart of life itself. So to conclude, taking time to self-audit is about building a bridge back to meaning. What the modern world forgets amid the tsunami of guides and gurus is this: the fantasy that action for action's sake will fix your life. It's just that, a fantasy. And just as mistaken is the idea that escape into the spiritual will shield you from the long reach of reality. In the end, it's your challenge and your freedom to find balance between being and doing. Those are the vector points of that bridge. And so often, our best work comes in the aftermath of remembering how to feel again. That's the purpose of the pain, because it's in that drama, at the threshold between what we feel and what we do, that not just life happens, but meaning returns. You will find your way. You will find your path. And you will uncover what it is you're meant to do next. We forget too easily, but the tools you need are already inside you. Those demons, they're not here to consume you. They're messengers. They're trying to be heard. And that brings us back to meaning. Viktor E. Frankl once wrote, "Everything can be taken from a person but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's way." Meaning then isn't something that arrives from the outside. It's the very expression of choice. It's not just a feeling, it's a form of action. It's what you do with what you're given. It's the art of living deliberately. And for me, the artistic process is the most powerful form of that, because it fuses being and doing into one cosmic whole. When you create, you don't just express yourself, you become yourself. You choose who you are over and over and over again, in the face of doubt, in the face of fear, in the middle of the storm. So if you're lost right now, if your sense of meaning has slipped, maybe this moment is the moment you choose again, quietly, without applause, not to be seen, but to see. Because even in the void, there's something sacred about saying, I'm here, I'm still choosing, and I'm not damn well done yet. Guys, thank you so much for listening. I want to share a quick story before I go to share how this piece came together. So I actually recorded the first version of this a week ago, but as I walked home, something felt off. I couldn't quite shake the feeling that I hadn't quite captured what I meant to say. So I made the decision to scrap the whole thing and to start again. And when I got home, I found a plumbing disaster waiting for me. 3 hours of chaos, and after that, I finally collapsed into bed. And the next morning, bleary-eyed and sleep-deprived, I boarded a plane back to the UK. Mid-flight, I pulled out my phone and started rewriting the script right from scratch. And at some point, I paused to catch my breath. And the woman sitting next to me by the window, Scandinavian, elegant, kind-eyed, leaned over and said, "I hope I'm not being nosy, but I just wanted to say, I love what you're writing." I was completely taken aback because, like all of us, I've been sitting there doubting myself, thinking I was mad to double my workload, wondering if I was wasting my time. And her words landed like a lifeline, and they gave me the confidence to keep going and reminded me why I started. So I thanked her, and I said also that I'd noticed her journaling earlier in the flight, and she smiled and said, "Yes, but I only write when I'm in pain." And I replied, "Like prayer." So we spoke a little longer, and she asked if I had a newsletter, and I told her about my experience publishing weekly on Substack, how it's become part of my rhythm even when it's hard. And she smiled and she said she'd been hovering on the edge of sharing her own for kind of some years. By the end of the flight, she told me that the conversation had given her the nudge that she needed to finally give it a try. And we were both kind of thrilled by it. And it reminded me of something powerful, how a small moment of curiosity and social courage can ripple into change for both people involved. And I wanted to share this story for 3 reasons. First, you never know what an impact you can have on another's life through a simple moment of kindness. And second, that even though you may be doubting what you're creating, you never know if it may be exactly the thing that another person needs to hear. And third, that sometimes when we lose a sense of meaning in our lives, it is the process of commitment to something we love that leads us back to remember our sense of worth. Whatever you're experiencing, through thick or thin, keep going, keep believing, and keep giving your gift to the world. My name is Jim, and it's my absolute honor that you've listened today. Thank you so much, guys. Goodbye.